All right.
Who's scruffy looking?
So, I decided to do this video sort of face-to-face. I didn't think this was a video that should be preachy and, should be me like trying to be a movie critic from doing a voiceover and showing B-roll. I think talking about movies, especially a movie that's as controversial as this, should be done sort of in a face-to-face manner. It should be a personal experience. So that's what we're gonna do, for better or worse. If you haven't already guessed, this is the 1-year anniversary of the Rise of Skywalker. Just 1 year ago. I can't believe it's already been a year since the Rise of Skywalker hit the theaters, and we're gonna sit down and talk about it. We're gonna sit down and try and figure out what resonated about this movie, what didn't resonate about this movie. Is it good a year later? Is it not so good a year later? We're gonna try and figure all that out. So stick around. We got a longish video, but I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. So, The Rise of Skywalker, 1 year later. I don't think a year for a Star Wars movie is enough time to really appreciate the cultural value of the movie. The original trilogy has been around for 40 years. In some cases, the prequel trilogy has been around for 20 years. The sequels are not even a decade old yet. So I think there's a lost reverence there. The prequels and the original trilogy have nostalgia. You can look through rose-tinted glasses at those movies. You can kind of gloss over the flaws in those movies, and time has kind of given them the benefit of the doubt. The sequels, not so much. They're still very young. I don't think a year for The Rise of Skywalker is enough time to look back and really appreciate its cultural value or appreciate how it recontextualized the entire saga. I think that is still years to come. But I think a year is enough time to look back and kind of get a first gut reaction. Where are we? How is this movie holding up? Is it still any good? Is it not so good? Has the supplementary material helped? We're gonna try and figure that out. So we're gonna do this video in 2 parts. First part is, what do I remember about the film? What do I remember a year later feeling, seeing, hearing, all of those things about the film? And then part 2, we're gonna talk about something else that's a little bit more interesting. So you can skip around if you want. I'll put timestamps down in the bottom. But if you want to watch all the way through, I think that's the best way to experience this video. So part 1, what do I remember about The Rise of Skywalker? What sticks out to me in the front of my mind when I think about this movie just a year later? Wow, what a loaded question that is. The first thing I think about actually is the opening scene. I love the opening scene of The Rise of Skywalker. I think that scene, out of any other scene so far in this movie, has really, really held up. And I think it's probably one of the most exciting openings in any Star Wars. I've seen all the Star Wars at least once since The Rise of Skywalker, and the only other opening that really holds up to The Rise of Skywalker, I think, is Revenge of the Sith. Both openings, just big, awesome action sequences, grabs you in, faster, more intense. George used to say that all the time, faster, more intense. That's his go-to phrase for action and acting in the Star Wars movies, and there really is no other better example of faster and more intense than the first 20 minutes or so of The Rise of Skywalker. Ben and Palpatine in that opening scene is fantastic. I think that is probably one of the spookiest moments in Star Wars. I wish there was more of that in Star Wars, to be honest with you. Palpatine's a scary dude, and that was one of the only times watching Star Wars I was really honestly scared of Palpatine. So that sticks out to me. I remember getting goosebumps in the theater and feeling a little bit on edge, which is really kind of cool, because I think that's the sort of aura that you want to get from Palpatine. So I love that first Exegol sequence. And then also in the opening scene, Poe and Finn and Chewie piloting the Falcon and lightspeed skipping and shooting down those ties. That was really cool. That still sticks out to me today. I can watch that scene over and over and over. I think Poe piloting the Falcon is such a treat, and it's a shame we didn't get more of that, but I get it. It's not really his ship, but the fact that we didn't get more of Poe piloting that ship is a shame. I'm sure Han would have been proud, because that was some awesome, awesome movie making. And then, of course, the visuals of The Rise of Skywalker are just stunning. I mean, there are so many vibrant planets in The Rise of Skywalker. It's so fun and visually stunning to watch. Every planet feels unique and it has sort of this real history and feel to it. I think that practical effects still have a place in movie making, especially in Star Wars. The more real you can make it, even though it's a space fantasy and we want to suspend our beliefs for 2 hours or so, if you can ground that, if you can make it a setting that's as real as possible, I think that adds something to the film. And then, of course, the score. I mean, how could you not rate a score up there with one of the things that you remember from a Star Wars movie? You know, the John Williams score in all of these sequel trilogy movies is fantastic. It's probably some of his best work. I know we always say that after a Star Wars movie, but really the sequels are some of his absolute best work. It's a shame that he's not going to do any more Star Wars movies, but I get it. It's time for him to move on and do other things. But I cannot wait to see who comes in next and tries to follow up some of these fantastical musical elements that he's created for the sequel trilogy. Okay, so part 2. The Rise of Skywalker has a lack of something. I can't really pinpoint it. I don't know why. There was only those few things really in the last part that I remember about the Rise of Skywalker, being there, experiencing the movie for the first few times. And beyond that, I have a hard time looking back and picking things out of this movie that I can really, really recall. You know, people have a hard time remembering places and faces and dates, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's where the Rise of Skywalker kind of loses its edge. It's got a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, I don't remember how I felt watching it. Out of all the new Disney Star Wars movies, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Solo, even Rogue One, I remember parts of those films that really made me feel something. The Rise of Skywalker very clearly comes in last in all of those. And really, it's not fair to say that The Rise of Skywalker was underwhelming or didn't perform to what I thought it was going to be, because we've said this on the channel before, The Rise of Skywalker just was a cursed movie. You know, they had to go through a couple of different screenwriters. Rian Johnson comes in, makes a spectacular movie, and takes the saga in a direction that nobody really thought it would go, right? Then JJ has to sit back and say, oh, well, it's not really my problem. Chris Terrio can handle it. Then Chris Terrio and Lucasfilm split. Now JJ has to come back, make up his own script that he didn't think he was going to make in the first place, so he has to get back into the swing of things. Then, unfortunately, we have the passing of Carrie Fisher, but it came at a really bad time, so you can't even make the movie about the one person you wanted to make the movie about. Then you're having to work backwards, trying to fit in clips from a movie you already shot with her in it to try and make sense as the final piece of this trilogy. Not to mention, this is a 8-movie saga already. How do you work in elements from all of the films and make this feel like a true ending? Like, I don't know if that's possible. Of course, there are going to be people down in the comments that say, oh, it's possible, but speaking realistically, I really don't know how many options that they really had. Honestly, I think if they had released The Rise of Skywalker now, this year, I think we get a completely different movie. We might even have a better movie if it releases this year instead of rushing it to have it done last year. I get it. You have a schedule to keep, and Star Wars has a million things going on, so Rise of Skywalker coming out this year isn't realistic. It could have been done, but think about all of the things that would have had to be pushed back because the Rise of Skywalker was coming out. But there are more to come. There are more Star Wars on the horizon, right? We're getting Rogue Squadron in a couple of years, which is fantastic. Bad Batch is coming out. The Mandalorian's fantastic. The High Republic's coming out. There's more Star Wars on the horizon. The Rise of Skywalker is not the end-all, be-all. The fact that we're looking at this a year later and still complaining that it was a terrible movie or it didn't live up to our expectations is just sort of silly. There's so much more to look forward to. Star Wars is going in the direction that it's never gone before, and that's exciting. I think at the end of the day, that's what we should be happy about. But in the end, everybody knows the true value of success in a movie is how well the toy sales went. And I don't have that many Rise of Skywalker toys. All I have is Rey. This movie sucked.